Fortnite's storyline is incredibly complicated, but if you're like me, it's also super interesting to pay attention to and be a part of. While we wait for the new season, let's look back at 10 Fortnite storyline secrets. And if you could, please feel free to use code T5G in the item shop when buying the Season 3 Battle Pass. It supports us more than you know. But anyways, let's jump to number 10, the Engineer. The live event, which is right around the corner, is going to be our first storyline-related event in over 7 months, believe it or not, so you could say I'm excited for it. The official loading screen for this event, called The Device, has been leaked and it looks great. But there is a secret in this loading screen, and it's a cameo from one of the most mysterious characters of the Chapter 2 storyline. I'm talking about the Engineer, a shadow member who we've only seen through a photo on Midas's desk. If you look in the reflection on the glass case, you can spot a face near Midas who you might not recognize at first until you compare it to the photo in his office and realize that this is indeed the Engineer. It's a really cool Easter egg, and it confirms our own theory that the Engineer was the one who built the suit and Doomsday device for Midas in the first place. Interestingly enough, according to leaks, she will have her own skin in the Battle Pass in Season 3, so there's a lot we have to learn about who she is and her backstory. Number 9, Travis Scott. Something a lot of people picked up on during the Travis Scott concert was that if you look down during the final few minutes, you'll be able to spot the Chapter 1 island below you. But that wasn't just any old Easter egg, it actually was a part of something so much bigger that not a lot of people seem to realize. If you watch the concert back, you'll notice a lot of weird things that seem all too familiar. First, we're going to look at when Travis jumps from the Astro World to the actual Fortnite Island. It's really similar to the rocket launch event. Moving on, you then see a ton of fire and explosions, which references the volcano event. We also, of course, see the Chapter 1 Island when flying through the sky, and during that scene, the Chapter 1 Island is surrounded by comets, which of course is a reference to the meteor event. It gets even more obvious by the end of it though. If you look at the core of the Astro World planet, it begins to glow purple near the end of the concert and starts getting more unstable before eventually exploding. This, of course, is a nod to Kevin the Cube exploding in Chapter 1. Much like when Kevin actually exploded, the Astroworld explosion takes us to a weird place with the infamous butterfly rift, and then the concert finishes with the light fading away, and it looks just like the end event. It's all one big storyline tie, and we don't know the exact reasons for Epic doing it all, but I'm sure we're gonna find out shortly. Number 8, The Visitor. Back in Chapter 1, Season 4, the storyline began to ramp up massively, with people being introduced to a ton of new characters, most notably the Visitor. At the time, we didn't know anything about the Visitor, or even where he came from. All we knew was that he appeared out of a strange space pod in Dusty Divot. So, when more information about the Visitor came to light throughout each season of Chapter 1, it was Season X where it was finally revealed that he actually came from the meteor which hit the island, more specifically Dusty Divot, at the beginning of the season. You were even able to spot the space pod inside of the frozen meteor as a little Easter egg. Now, it doesn't really explain much of what exactly the Visitor is or where the 7 originally came from, but it's a neat little detail that some people overlooked. Number 7, the Villain's Rocket. Keeping on topic with the Visitor and the rocket launch in Season 4, a lot of people were confused as to why the rocket flew into the sky and immediately began aiming for Tilted Towers. At the time, the main theory was that the rocket was actually going to destroy Tilted and that's what the event would be, but instead, the rocket rifted away just seconds before hitting the area and began flying around until it eventually caused the now famous rift in the sky. Well, the reason this happened is because the Visitor actually spent the whole season tampering with the rocket. If you take a look at this loading screen, you could actually spot the Visitor messing with its settings. So, the best guess is that the rocket belonged to the supervillain at the villain's lair, and the Visitor snuck inside and tampered with it. Now, the supervillain eventually launches the rocket in their evil plan to destroy Tilted, but it rifted away at the last second and instead did what the Visitor programmed it to do, which is what we assume to be getting the Visitor somehow home. Number 6, Singularity. A character in the Chapter 1 storyline that not too many people talk about is that of Singularity, who is actually the owner of the helmet you could find on the desk during the unvaulting event. It was this Easter egg which led us to finding out about her being the guardian of the 0 point. Now, my theory is that Singularity was not present during the unvaulting event, and because that resulted in Tilted Towers and retail getting destroyed by the volcano, Singularity kind of felt bad for letting her guard down, so she helped rebuild the areas. She was the one who provided the power to make Neo Tilted and Mega Mall through the 0 point and created a statue of herself at Tilted, which of course was later used as a giant sword. What I'm trying to say is this is proof that Singularity also was the one who created the Mecha Team leader in order to protect the island. We don't know where she is now, but I assume she was inside of the robot, which then flew away at the end of the final showdown. Pretty cool how it all links together, huh? Number 5. Oro. Moving away from Chapter 1 and diving right back into Chapter 2, there's a cool storyline secret over at the Shark. If you've been keeping up with the storyline, you may have heard us talk about this, but in one of the cells which someone broke out of, you could find a mysterious calendar on the wall. This calendar has a few random dates on it, with the days of March 25th to March 31st highlighted. Uncoincidentally, Oro was introduced to the item shop between those exact dates. Because of this, it proves that Oro was indeed the prisoner in the Shark, as it's possible he broke out of prison and began his reawakening during the week he came back to the item shop. Number 4. Lynx and Meowscles. When Season 2 first came out, the opening cinematic reintroduced us to a ton of old familiar faces such as Lynx and Bushranger and revealed that they were members of a secret organization called the Agency all along. In fact, Lynx's relationship with Meowscles has been hinted at not just recently, but all the way back in Chapter 1, Season 7. In the loading screen, you can see Lynx designing her cat outfit, and if you look on a monitor near her, you can of course spot the lovely Meowscles. Because of this, and the fact that Lynx was a member of the Agency, it shows that these two have been friends, or maybe even more than that, for a long time now. Meowscles even has a tattoo on his right arm that has a heart with Lynx's name on it. It's only fitting that both of them are very focused on being cats, although Lynx has a cat costume and Meowscles is, well, whatever this is. Although the plot thickens because Meowscles on the island right now has actually left Ghost in the Agency and has gone over to Shadow. It's obvious why he did this because, as you can see on this wall right here, Midas actually killed Lynx, or so he thinks. What I'm assuming is Lynx has actually faked her death and has returned as the Vixen, assuming another identity to make sure she could help stop Midas's plan. Number 3. Kaos Agent. A little known fact about Kaos Agent, a villain who we've been following ever since he appeared during the final reckoning in Chapter 1, is that he actually has more influence over the Chapter 2 island than you might think. If you look at the loading screen which revealed his evil plans in Season 1, you can spot equipment in the shadows which reveals that he is indeed located at Steamy Stacks. Because of this and the fact that he could actually control the weather and the clouds as revealed by this loading screen, it's very likely that Kaos Agent is actually the secret evil owner of Kevolution Energy, the company that owns Steamy Stacks. This would mean that Kaos Agent has access to Kevin the Cube's energy, and there is another theory that it was actually Kaos Agent who originally sent the cube to the Chapter 1 island in the first place in order to find the 0 point and tell him where it was. I mean, think about it. The cube did explode right over where the 0 point ended up being. It does make a lot of sense, but moving on, it's time to talk about the 0 point and what happened during the end event when it exploded. Number 2. Brutes. Something not many people realize is that back in Season X, when the controversial Brute started exploding randomly, it wasn't just a glitch, it was actually storyline related. An image that was found on a monitor belonging to the scientist showed some kind of computer virus that was infecting the mechs and causing them to self-destruct upon landing. But that's not the interesting part. If you look at the rift beacons that were spread around the map and then compare it to this loading screen of the scientist doing some experimental work, you could pretty easily come to the conclusion that the rift beacons, as well as the actual rocket which was launched during the end event, was made out of Brute parts. It's not the biggest deal, but it's just something that I thought was really cool and a nice touch considering almost no one would even think to pay attention to this. It's one of the only times that Epic has actually made an overpowered item being vaulted a part of the storyline itself, aside from, well, the whole unvaulting event. Talk about tiny details and loading screens. And finally, number 1, Bushranger. It turns out that Lynx wasn't the only person to foreshadow the existence of the Agency in Chapter 2. In Season 1, during the whole Alter vs. Ego storyline that was super confusing, you could actually see a hidden secret in the 8-Ball vs. Scratch loading screen. If you look just here into the forest, you will actually discover that Bushranger is lurking in the shadows watching 8-Ball fight Scratch. Because of this, you realize that Bushranger was the one who told Midas and the rest of the Agency about the fight happening between Ghost and Shadow, and it was at that moment they decided to join each side. Around the end of the season, you could even see Midas looking at Ghost documents on his toilet in his small house, where the Agency headquarters stands to this day, for now at least. Bushranger even goes further as to make tree carvings to note down everything he's observed while spying on the island. You could even see references to the Seven and more. It's all connected, and I'm sure if we continue to pay attention, this is gonna come full circle quick. And if you could, please feel free to use code T5G in the item shop when buying the Season 3 Battle Pass. It supports us more than you know. But hey, this has been Tommy, Keeper here, Top 5 Gaming.